Okay, folks, so get ready because this is a deep dive that might make you think twice the next time you see one of those wedding invites, piling up on your fridge. Yeah, we're diving into a claim that might sound a little strange at first glance. Weddings, as we picture them with the whole shebang,
Right.
they're not actually found in the Bible.
Oh, wow.
Now, before you think we've completely lost it, just remember,
Yeah.
we're here to explore ideas,
Right.
not to preach.
Of course. Yeah.
Our goal is to understand this argument, not tell you what to believe about it.
Absolutely.
So let's get into it.
Yeah.
The idea is that weddings aren't biblical.
Well, it is a very interesting puzzle, isn't it? Because the Bible talks a lot about the importance of marriage,
Oh yeah, for sure.
but it doesn't really give us a step-by-step guide for a wedding ceremony like we think of it today.
Yeah, it's so interesting because we have this really important concept like marriage,
Right.
which is like a cornerstone of faith in many traditions. And yet there's no mention of like the white dress, or walking down the aisle or like
The first dance.
the first dance. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how did marriage even work back then if they didn't have weddings?
Well, you have to imagine that marriage in ancient Israel wasn't so much like a single event,
Okay.
like we think of it now, but more of a process
Okay.
that was really rooted in family and community.
I see.
So think of it more like agreements between families, often involving a betrothal period
Okay.
that could sometimes last for quite a while.
So like a super long engagement.
Yeah, and you could think of it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if there wasn't a ceremony like we have now, what actually made a marriage official back then?
That's a great question. And it often wasn't about a specific ritual,
Okay.
but more about a shift in the couple's social standing and their living arrangements.
Okay.
So, for example, you remember the story of Jacob working for 7 years to marry Rachel?
Oh yeah, definitely.
That wasn't a wedding ceremony in the way we think of it today,
Yeah.
but it showed his commitment
Yes.
and ultimately led to them building a life together.
I've heard that story so many times growing up, but thinking about it this way,
Yeah.
it really adds a new layer to it.
Yeah.
It becomes less about the romance and more about the commitment, the social recognition.
Exactly. And you see the same idea throughout a lot of the Old Testament marriage narratives.
Yeah.
The focus is on the covenant, the commitment between families and the establishment of a new household.
So if the wedding as we know it didn't come directly from the Bible, where did all of those traditions come from? The
white dress and...
the throwing the bouquet, the whole 9 yards.
It's really a melting pot of different influences over time.
Okay.
The idea of a wedding ceremony evolved as different cultures and practices kind of blended together. For example, early Christians started incorporating elements from Roman marriage customs, like the exchange of rings.
Oh, interesting.
In Roman culture, rings were a symbol of binding agreements. And that meaning was carried over into Christian practice, where it became a symbol of the marriage covenant.
I bet a lot of people listening have never even thought about that. The ring as this like ancient tradition that's still influencing us today.
Yeah.
It's pretty wild.
Yeah.
But so going back to the Bible, if the real core of a marriage is about the covenant and the commitment, what does that say about our modern day weddings?
Right.
The ones with all the fancy stuff and the huge guest lists.
Yeah.
Are they just for show then?
That's where it gets really interesting, and it kind of becomes a more personal question too, because if we try to strip away all the layers of cultural expectations and traditions, what's really left at the heart of a wedding? Is it about the party and the dress?
Yeah.
Or is it about publicly declaring that commitment, that covenant, in front of your community? And how does that understanding shape the way we approach marriage itself?
Whoa. That's deep.
Yeah.
It makes you think. After this deep dive, I have a feeling we'll all be looking at weddings a little differently.
I think so.
Maybe even asking ourselves what truly makes a marriage.
Yeah.
And how do our own traditions reflect those deeper values?
That's a good question.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive, everybody.
Thanks for having me.
And we'll see you next time.
Yeah, see you later. Bye. Bye.